Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley here for Concord 9th. Thanks for joining me today. Today I have the great pleasure of introducing you to the brand new September 2022 release from Concord 9th. It is full of holiday and I am absolutely in love. Today I want to give you an in-depth look at the brand new Boughs and Holly stamps, stencils, and dies from Concord 9th. This product suite is full of holiday imagery that you're going to use over and over again in your holiday card making. And this product suite includes the Boughs and Holly Sentiment Stamp Set, the Boughs and Holly Stencil Sets, and I'll show you those in action in just a few minutes. And then finally, the Boughs and Holly Die Set, which includes a mix of greenery and sentiments that I think you're gonna love. Now, the Boughs and Holly stencil sets are a layering stencil set, and each of these includes 3 stencils, and they are marked so that you know which stencils go with which. You can see that there's some etching in the top of each of the stencils that tells you not only the name of the stencil, but also what order to stencil this in. There are also registration marks in the corners of each of these stencils to help you line up an A2 size card front so that you can center it right on your card front. Now, there are 2 different stencil sets within this Boughs and Holly product suite, and one creates this gorgeous greenery wreath and the other this greenery background. And I love that these were designed to coordinate so well with not only the stamp set, because you can see there are a variety of different sentiments that fit within those areas on the greenery background, but it also coordinates so well with that greenery wreath as well. Now let's have a look at all of the die cuts that are created with this Boughs and Holly die set. You can see there are a variety of different greenery pieces that can be layered on top of each other in 2 different colors to add extra dimension and extra color to your greenery, or you can use them on their own to create different looking pieces. So you can see I'm just layering up all these different pieces. I've cut them in both evergreen and parsley to create a multicolored and dimensional effect with these die cuts. And there are also some great banner style sentiments that you can die cut from any color of cardstock and layer on the solid background that's included as well. There are also some holly leaves, berry sprigs, and berries that you can die cut from various colors of cardstock. And let me just show you how well these dies coordinate with these stenciled backgrounds. You can see I have that circle, love and joy within that greenery wreath, and those banner style sentiments fit perfectly on the greenery background. So let's have a look at this greenery background stencil set in action. This is a layering stencil set, so there are 3 stencils, and I am just lining up this A2 size card front with the registration marks that are etched in the stencil. And I'm starting with stencil number 1. And it's hard to see in the video, but each of these stencils is labeled with not only the name of the stencil, but also the number of stencil. I have used some low-tack tape to hold my card front in place on the back side of the stencil, and I'm starting out with some sea glass ink and blending over the entire area of the stencil. Now, this stencil was designed as kind of a 2-step stencil. So I'm not only going to stencil it in this direction, but when I'm done with my first color, I'm going to rotate this stencil 180 degrees and then ink blend over the top of it in another green color. And this is going to give a lot of depth, dimension, and color variation to this pattern that it creates on your card front. So I've not done any masking on this stencil. I'm simply just doing some simple ink blending using that sea glass ink. Now I'm going to speed this up a little bit because I'm just doing some simple and basic ink blending. And once I've finished ink blending over this entire stencil, I'm going to kind of wipe it down to keep my hands clean, and I'm rotating the stencil 180 degrees. I'm lining the stencil back up with the registration marks that are in the corner of the stencil. And now I'm coming in with some Concord 9th evergreen ink and blending in a second green color. Now you're going to notice that the pattern builds on itself, and I think that is the genius design behind these turnabout style stencils. You're going to notice that as you stencil, some of the areas are going to overlap, and that's really just going to add some beautiful dimension to your ink blended panel. So you can get really fancy with your ink blending, but I'm just doing some solid ink blending here today, and I'm making sure that I kind of wipe down my stencil to keep my hands clean. Now I'm moving on to stencil number 2. Once again, I am just lining up my A2 size card front with the registration marks that are in the corner of the stencil, and I've ink blended this first layer with grapefruit ink. Now I'm taking the stencil and I'm rotating it 180 degrees, lining up again with the registration marks that are in the corner, and I'm ink blending with the Concord 9th Poppy ink. Now I really love that they've designed it with this rotation in it because it gets you so many more colors in your stenciled background without having to do any masking. So now I'm moving on to stencil number 3, and I've just lined up my card front once again with the registration marks that are in the corner of the stencil, and I'm ink blending using evergreen ink once again, but this time I'm going in with a much heavier hand so I get a darker coating of ink. And you can see when I remove my stencil, I have this beautiful multicolored pattern. And because I've lined up my panel on those registration marks each and every time, I have it perfectly centered on my card front. Now, after you're done, you can clean your stencils by running them under some water and using some dish soap, but I like to spray just a little bit of rubbing alcohol on them and wipe them down with a microfiber cloth. They dry really quickly and they're ready for creating again. Now here's a look at a card that I created using this Boughs and Holly product suite. I think this is so gorgeous. There's nothing like greenery on a holiday card. And so I've die cut several pieces from that die set and tucked them in, layered them up. I've even added some of those berry sprigs in the brand new gold metallic cardstock from Concord 9th. And I've used this cute little Merry Christmas sentiment from the Boughs and Holly stamp set to stamp onto a black banner here on my card. And I don't know if you can see it in the background, but I have a subtle tone-on-tone white plaid that I created with the Plaid Turnabout stamp. Now for this card, I have used the Greenery Wreath stencil set. I've stenciled it in 2 different colors of green ink and added some grapefruit berries, and I have trimmed it down into a mini slimline size. I heat embossed the Merry and Bright sentiment in silver embossing powder onto some vellum, and then use the backer pieces for these banner sentiments to die cut those out. And I finished off my card with a little bit of the brand new silver metallic cardstock, as well as a tiny strip of the Be Merry pattern paper. So there you have it, a look at the brand new Boughs and Holly product suite from Concord 9th. It is perfect for all of your holiday card making this season. I'm here to introduce you to the brand new Festive Phrases stamp and coordinating die set from Concord 9th. And this product suite was really designed to work with all of the brand new holiday products from Concord 9th. Now the stamp set includes a variety of sentiments, and the coordinating die set has dies for not only the merry, but also the happy holidays and joyful stamped sentiments. There are also some standalone die cut sentiments that are in the die set that are not included in the stamp set. And when you mix and match these 2 products together, you get so many options for holiday cards. Now this Fa La La and Holly Jolly die cut sentiments not only include the die cut words, but also the base layer or the shadow layer. So that gives you a lot of layering options as well. And you can see I've die cut these from some of the brand new metallic cardstock from Concord 9th. There is a brand new rose gold, which I die cut that Holly Jolly from. There is a gorgeous silver and a fabulous gold as well, and they all die cut so beautifully. And these are a part of the brand new Concord 9th holiday release as well, and they are perfect for all of your holiday card making die cut sentiments. Now I love that the stamp set includes a variety of different sentiments. So there's happy holidays, there's also this cute little bright scripty sentiment that I have stamped up there in that upper left-hand corner. There's this gorgeous scripty Have a Merry Christmas, but there's also May Your Hanukkah Be or May Your Holidays Be. You can combine it with that bright. There's this larger Wishing You and Yours a Warm and Happy Holiday that's perfect for the inside of a card. And there's some smaller sentiments that say Let's Be, Happy New Year, Love and Joy, Happy Holiday Wishes, and 'Tis the Season. Now here's a look at a card that I created using that big die cut Holly Jolly as the focal point on my card, and I've combined it with the small bee banner sentiment from the Boughs and Holly die set. I've added some dimension by stacking up several layers of that die cut Holly Jolly, and I've die cut the backer from a piece of striped cardstock that I created by layering different strips of cardstock onto a single piece of paper and then die cutting it. Now I used that striped paper again on this card to create this very clean and simple look. I stamped that joyful greeting in Concord 9th evergreen ink onto some white cardstock and die cut it, and I layered up a couple of plain white die cuts behind it to create some dimension, and I added a small little heart from a Concord 9th hot air balloon set. And finally, I have combined 3 of these stamped and die cut Merry greetings along with a smaller greeting, the 'Tis the Season greeting, on this card here. Now to accent it, I've added just a few little sprigs of greenery from the Boughs and Holly die set, and I added that onto a larger striped background that I created using sea glass, clover, and evergreen cardstocks from Concord 9th. So there you have it, a complete look at the new Festive Phrases stamps and coordinating dies from Concord 9th. I think you're gonna love mixing and matching this stamp and die set to use on its own or with other products from this fabulous holiday release. We're going to take an in-depth look at the brand new Nordic Noelle dies and coordinating enamel shapes from Concord 9th. This die set includes 6 dies that will create a gorgeous Nordic feeling Noel focal point for your card. It includes a base or shadow layer along with the word Noel, as well as detail dies that you can use to nest inside the negative spaces of that word Noel to add a little pop of color. Now, if you want to add that pop of color along with some dimension and shine, you can pick up the Nordic Noelle enamel shapes. This is a half sheet that I'm showing you here, and they layer perfectly into these die cut pieces. Now let's have a look at these dies die cut from some various colors of cardstock. I've started with this base or shadow layer of the Noel. I've die cut that from some sea glass cardstock from Concord 9th. And then I also love to layer up these shadows with a specialty cardstock, like this gorgeous white glitter cardstock from Concord 9th. And you can see I've die cut the Noel piece from some ballet slipper cardstock and layered it on top, and you get a great colorful look. Now I love that these detail dies cut several pieces of the tulips and the leaves and the little dot pieces all at once, so you don't have to run the same die through over and over again. And just a little idea for this Noel, you can actually trim off that O and create an adorable ornament for your card as well. So I've created a couple of cards to inspire you featuring this brand new Nordic Noelle die set and coordinating enamel shapes, starting off with this adorable mini slimline card. Now, in order to create this elongated sentiment instead of a stacked sentiment, I've just taken the base layer and cut right across the connecting piece between the No and the L, and then I've die cut the N and the O from pink and green cardstock, and the E and the L from poppy and sea glass cardstock. Then I've just trimmed between those connections to create a multicolored die cut. And I finished the card off with some gold accents cut using that mini dot die. Now here is another card that I created with the Noel kind of as it was intended. And this time I've die cut it from some white cardstock and layered it up to add some dimension. And I've nested those enamel shapes in there to give it a pop of color. And I love all the shine that the enamel shapes give you as well. Now this Happy Holidays sentiment is from the Winter Wonderland stamp set, also available in this brand new holiday release from Concord 9th. And I created a stitched background using the brand new Poinsettia Quilt Top Die Set, and that just gives the background a little bit of texture. So there you have it, a look at the brand new Nordic Noelle die set and coordinating enamel shapes from Concord and 9th. Let's have an in-depth look at the brand new Oh Night Divine stamps and coordinating dies from Concord and 9th. I love this set because it is beautiful for creating some very scenic Christmas themed cards. Now let's start out with an in-depth look at the Oh Night Divine stamp set. And I absolutely love this set because it has some very beautiful greetings as well as this large scripty scriptural Christmas story that you can use on its own, or you can kind of stack it up to create a full card front. Now these curved sentiments are designed to coordinate with the coordinating die set and kind of follow the curves. There's also some gorgeous Oh Night Divine, Peace on Earth, and Joy to the World sentiments, as well as this Oh Holy Night sentiment. Now I love that Oh Holy Night because there is a coordinating die that goes along with it in this large Oh Night Divine die set. Now each of these larger landscape pieces in the Oh Night Divine die set are numbered, and they layer together to create a beautiful background. And those numbers are really there just to help you know what order they go in on your card front. So let's have a look at all of these dies, die cut from some white and various colored cardstocks. You have your city scene there kind of lending itself to Bethlehem. There is a tiny star, which I'm obsessed with die cutting from the Concord and 9th silver glitter cardstock. There's also a pregnant Mary on a donkey with Joseph kind of leading it, as well as a banner die, which die cuts each of these three sentiments here, these straighter sentiments, perfectly. And I've stamped them in some peacock ink onto some white cardstock and die cut them with this little banner die. You can use that banner die for other sentiments as well. And finally, I've stamped the Oh Holy Night and used the coordinating die to die cut that. And I absolutely love that beautiful scripty sentiment. Now there's also two different options for moons, which I've die cut from some Stardust cardstock. And here is a look at these landscape pieces that layer together to create a really beautiful backdrop. Now I've die cut them from some Midnight as well as some peacock cardstock and some grapefruit cardstock. And I've added just a little bit of ink blending along the edges of the top portions of these landscape pieces to give a little bit of kind of offset from the previous piece. So keep in mind, you don't have to die cut these from 6 different colors of cardstock. You can die cut them from all of the same color of cardstock and add a little bit of ink blending to add some depth and dimension to these pieces. But look how they layer up perfectly to create an A2 size card front that has this gorgeous kind of desert scene. Now these dies are perfect for creating a backdrop for a nativity scene, but you can use them throughout the year. Think of different sunrise or sunset projects that you can use them for. Die cutting them from different colors of cardstock is going to change the feel of these completely. But I kind of wanted to give you a look at several of these pieces on this background as it's layered up. You can really create various scenes using the different cityscape dies or the manger by itself. You can kind of tuck the cityscape behind each of these layers, or you can add dimension to these layers. There are so many possibilities with this die set. Now, when I created my cards using these gorgeous products, I wanted to kind of take them in a totally different direction. And so I've created this nativity themed card here with a lot of white cardstock and just a touch of ink blending on the background. So you can see I've only used 3 of those landscape style dies on the background, but I varied the dimension. And then for my manger, I stacked up 4 of those white die cuts to give it a little bit of pop off of that white background. And I've tucked the cityscape behind these hill pieces to kind of give it the look of it being in the distance. I added that Oh Holy Night sentiment to the top, and I die cut my star from the silver glitter cardstock from Concord and 9th. And speaking of a silver glitter star, I have another project featuring these gorgeous stamps and dies. This one features that star again. And I created a background using that scriptural kind of sentiment stamp. I've stamped it twice to fill this entire circle, and then ink blended sea glass, clover, and evergreen ink on the background. This card project is very simple, but it is so stunning, and I love the various colors of green as well as that touch of silver glitter as well. So there you have it, a look at the brand new Oh Night Divine stamps and coordinating dies from Concord 9th. So many ways to use these stamps and dies, and I think you're going to love crafting with these this holiday season. It's time to get up close and personal with a close-up look at the Plaid Turnabout stamp from Concord 9th. Now, I think you're going to love this stamp when you see it in action because there's nothing that says Christmas like a little bit of plaid, but this really can be used year-round. Now, like all of the Turnabout stamp sets, it will come with both the stamp and the positioning guide. And when you flip it over to the back side, keep in mind that there's always ideas and suggestions for using these products. And I think that's so helpful. But you can see how this stamp looks stamped 1, 2, 3, and 4 times using different colors. Now, I've created a few samples here using some different color palettes. Most of them are holiday themed, but check this out. When I stamped this on some peacock cardstock using black, peacock, and white pigment ink, it is absolutely beautiful for a masculine card. And I think this color combination here is one of my favorites. I'm going to show you that here in just a bit. Now, I've used a lot of blacks and pinks in these samples here, but I wanted to show you this one in particular because I actually only stamped this 3 times. And you can see that the plaid look is not quite as full as the other versions that I stamped. Now, there's no substitute for seeing a Turnabout stamp in action, so we're going to watch it come together today. I have my Turnabout jig here in my Misty stamping tool, and I've just added a little bit of adhesive on the back of this white cardstock from Concord 9th. This is cut to 5.5 by 5.5 inches, and I'm starting with my first stamping, and I'm going to ink up the stamp in ballet slipper ink. Now, keep in mind, you can drastically change the look of these Turnabout stamps depending on the colors that you use or the number of times that you stamp it. So the possibilities really are endless. And as you saw in my first examples there, you don't have to just use Christmas colors or holiday colors with this Plaid Turnabout. You can make it work year-round. So that is my first stamping in ballet slipper. Now, I'm going to turn this 1 turn. The number 2 at the top of my jig is now in the upper right-hand corner, and I've cleaned my stamp and I'm inking it up with some black pigment ink. I'm going to ink up my stamp really well. I'm going to make sure my jig is tucked into the lower right-hand corner of my Misty stamping tool. I'm going to press that down, and now you can see what this stamp looks like when it's just stamped twice. Now, the great thing about using a Misty stamping tool is that you can re-stamp if you need to, and I did double stamp that black color there on that second turn. So now I've taken and I've rotated my Turnabout jig one more time, so the 3 is in the upper right-hand corner. This time I've cleaned my stamp and I'm inking up with the Concord 9th Evergreen ink. Now, this is definitely a holiday color palette here, but it's more Carissa style because I've brought in that ballet slipper, which is one of my favorite ink colors in all of the land. So now that I've stamped it a 3rd time, you can see how this plaid looks with 3 stamping. I've gone ahead and rotated my Turnabout jig the 4th and final time. The 4 on the Turnabout jig is in the upper right-hand corner of this jig. And now I've cleaned my stamp, inked it up with that black pigment ink again, and then stamped onto my cardstock. And you can see I have this really gorgeous, bold, holiday plaid pattern. Now, keep in mind, I could substitute one of these colors with some embossing powder and maybe a gold or a silver, or I could stamp all 4 turns in the same color and really change up how this looks. Now, I created a couple of cards that use this Plaid Turnabout stamp, and the first one features that color palette I just showed you. I've added a few die cuts from the Boughs and Holly die set, and some of those evergreen sprigs I even die cut from some white glitter paper just to give it a frosty and magical look. I added a little heart on there, and that was an easy card to put together. Now the plaid is a little more subtle on my second card project, and that's because I stamped this in Versamark ink and embossed using white embossing powder onto some white cardstock. This gives it a subtle tone-on-tone effect. I then took some ballet slipper ink and just blended lightly over the top of that to give it a little bit of color. I added a couple of die cuts and some colored cardstock, and that finishes off my second card. And you can see I featured that beautiful new rose gold metallic cardstock on this card project as well. So there you have it, a look at the Plaid Turnabout stamp set. I think you're going to be reaching for this not only through this holiday season, but year round. It's time for an introduction to the Poinsettia Quilt Top Die Set. This die set is brand new in the Quilt Top line from Concord 9th, and they have been so popular, and this one just has all the holiday vibes. This 7-piece die set not only includes the stitched area for your quilting pieces, but also a shadow or base layer, so you can use them together or separately, which makes this die set so much more versatile. So here's a look at that stitched pattern that I've die cut into a card front. Now, because I haven't used the outline die, I can actually do this right on the card base. But if I want this to be a separate standalone element, I can then die cut that using the shadow or base layer die and create a whole separate element that I could then pop up onto a card front. So you can use this in a couple of different ways. Now there's also this fabulous joy sentiment in this die set, which includes the shadow layer as well as the letters themselves. And there are these 3 quilt piece dies. Now, it looks like these diagonal pieces might be the same, but they're actually different because they are tilted in different directions. And these cut 4 at a time so that you can nestle them into that stitched pattern that you die cut. So I've die cut these in a couple of different colors here. I've used the sea glass cardstock, and it takes me a second always to kind of put puzzle pieces together. So I kind of have to get oriented here. But you can see how those nestle right onto that stitched pattern. And these little triangles go into the corner of this quilt pattern. Now, all of these quilt pieces have stitched outlines, so that makes the detail even more beautiful and even more quilt-like. And you're gonna have a great time playing with different color combinations and pattern papers with this Quilt Top die set. Now, although this is included in the holiday release and that joy does lend itself a little to the holiday vibe, I think this die set overall can be used year-round, and I think it would make a great baby card. Now, a great way to pull some pattern into your quilt is the Be Merry pattern paper pack. This is brand new this month from Concord 9th and features 18 sheets of 8.5 by 11 single-sided patterns that you can die cut and use on your quilt to give it a bunch of different looks. Now, the great thing about these quilt top dies is you really can customize these and use as many or as few colors or patterns as you want. So you can go wild or you can keep it clean and simple like I've done here. I've mixed in some of that Be Merry pattern paper pack that's new this month, along with some solid colored cardstocks and a lot of white pieces, but I've layered up those white pieces to give them a little more dimension. And I created this quilt directly onto my card base. So this is a relatively flat holiday card that you could mail easily. I also added a white heat embossed Happy Holidays sentiment from the Winter Wonderland stamp set. So here's another card featuring this Poinsettia Quilt Top die set, and what I've done is I've die cut the stitched layer and then I die cut it with that outline or shadow layer as well. That allows me to pop it up using some foam adhesive onto my card base and add a little bit of twine along that left edge. And then I just added a colorful joy greeting. I die cut this from some paper that I created using various strips of cardstock. And then I added that fa la la greeting on the top from the Winter Wonderland die set. So that's a look at the Poinsettia Quilt Top Die Set from Concord 9th. Bold and beautiful or clean and simple, I think you're going to love crafting with these dies. It's time to introduce you to the Snowfall card front die. This card front die is perfect for adding texture to all your holiday card projects and carry you throughout the winter months as well. Now this card front die does not have an outer cutting edge, so that means you can die cut it right onto your card base. And it's going to leave you with this beautiful faux stitched snowy background. Now I've die cut this directly into a few different colors of card bases. I've done sea glass and some white as well as some ballet slipper. I love these colors for holiday card projects. But I think this would also make a really cool kind of fireworks background for the summer months as well. So you can see this card project here, I actually created a striped background with different colors of cardstock. And then I used the stitching lines that the die created to add some of my own hand stitching to this. It is so beautiful. I used some silver thread and it catches the light just beautifully. To tie in the hand stitching, I added a little silver bow on the side of that Joy die cut sentiment from the Poinsettia Quilt Top Die Set and a little silver snowflake as well. Now this card I created using the Concord 9th watercolors. This is Ballet Slipper, Sea Glass, and Evergreen. I watercolored my background and then I used the Snowfall card front die to add texture to this background. I did a little ombre stamping for the sentiment and fussy cut that out, and then I added some beautiful layered snowflakes that are from the Winter Wonderland die set, and I die cut those using the brand new rose gold metallic cardstock from Concord 9th. I love the beautiful texture that the Snowfall card front die adds to any project, and I think you'll find yourself reaching for it all throughout the winter months. I'm excited to introduce you to the Winter Wonderland stamps and dies from Concord 9th. These are fabulous products that coordinate well together, and there's even an interactive feature that I'm going to show you how to use. Let's have a look at the stamp set. There are 3 background options: the Walking in a Winter Wonderland, Let It Snow, and a simple snowy or starry night background depending on the color that you stamp it in. And there are a lot of little filler images as well. So you can use the coordinating circle die that comes in the Winter Wonderland die set to die cut any of these background elements. Then you can use the little pieces to nest inside these stamped areas, like the tree and the candy cane or the Winter Wonderland sentiment. There's also this fabulous Have Yourself a Cozy Little Christmas curved sentiment that is designed to coordinate with the curvature of these snow globes. There's a few little strip sentiments down there that you can use as well. The die set is where the magic happens though. There are so many dies in this set, including an interactive piece. There are pieces to make an adorable little car carrying a Christmas tree, a nutcracker, a couple of snowmans, as well as a fabulous little delicate fa la la sentiment that I have loved using when I've created with this release. So I wanted to show you the pieces that come in the die set. You can see I've stamped the simple snowy background a couple of times and die cut it using the coordinating circle die. There is also the snow globe base. So keep in mind you can use the circle by itself or you can put it on a base to make it a snow globe. Here is a look at the nutcracker dies all put together and assembled and die cut in different colors. Here is a look at the 2 different snowman options. There's one facing both directions, and there are various hat options for the snowman, the nutcracker, and you can customize these any way you want. I love this little car with the tree on top, and that fa la la sentiment is so delicate. It's perfect. There's also some snowflakes as well as some snowflake filler that you can die cut from glitter cardstock or whatever color cardstock you want. And then I wanted to show you this little nutcracker with a couple of different hat options. So there's the larger top hat. There is a smaller kind of top hat. I'm not sure the technical names of all these hats. And this one kind of reminds me of the British soldiers outside of Buckingham Palace here. So it has a little curve on the top. And keep in mind, any of these hats you can use on either the nutcracker or the snowman. So you see the beanie and the smaller brimmed hat on the other snowman. You can use those on the nutcracker as well. Now this snow globe set really comes alive when you add the interactive pop-up element. So this piece here allows you to add a pop-up snow globe inside of your card. And when you die cut this piece, which is included in the Winter Wonderland die set, it will press the score lines into your cardstock as well as the word glue into each place that you need to place adhesive. So I'm starting out with this piece and I'm just folding along the score lines and I'm reinforcing those folds with my bone folder. Now, once I've gone ahead and folded and reinforced all of those score lines on this piece, I'm going to start adding my adhesive. Now, you could use a liquid glue or a tape runner adhesive, but whatever you use, I definitely recommend using a strong adhesive. So today I am going to use some double-sided score tape. I'm going to place little strips of score tape over every area that says glue. So this is where it really makes it foolproof because you don't have to guess. It's right there on your die cut. So I'm just adding these little strips and I'm tearing off the excess adhesive. There is one area that you skip right here, and then I'm adding the glue to the top piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the backer from all of this double-sided tape to get it ready to go into my card. So I have an A2 size folded card base. Keep in mind you can use this pop-up element inside any size card, and you can use it with other die cuts as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and hold this piece in my hand with the word glue facing the proper direction. And when I do that, the bottom two pieces will both have adhesive on them. I'm just going to fold back that first area to where there's adhesive on both sides. So I'm just going to fold it to the back so there's adhesive. And I'm going to take that fold and nestle it right into the fold of my card. And then I can just go ahead and close my card base onto that adhesive. Now, I wish I wouldn't have removed all of the backers to the adhesive right away because I'm trying to keep this from sticking to other areas of the card. So it may be beneficial to just remove the backers kind of one area at a time. Now I'm folding back the top tab and just laying it on to my card base, and the edges of those tabs that are adhered to the top of my card base there will meet up. And this forms a little box, and the adhesive on the front of this box is what holds your snow globe or other die cuts in place. This is a really easy to assemble interactive card design, and Concord 9th has really made it foolproof by kind of pressing those words into your die cut piece. And you can see this folds fairly flat and I can mail it very easily as long as I don't put a lot of dimension on the snow globe itself. So I have used the Winter Wonderland stamps and coordinating dies to create this see-through shaker card. And I've used the tiny little snowflake die to create the shaker elements inside of my shaker card. And you can see that my snowy background is actually stamped on the inside of my card. And when you open up the card, the snow globe kind of folds over and you can see the snowman inside. Now I've also used that fabulous Fa La La sentiment, a few of the snowflakes die cut from some white glitter cardstock from Concord 9th, and I've used this little Let It Snow sentiment from the stamp set. I've white heat embossed it onto some ballet slipper cardstock and adhered that to the base of my snow globe. And I love how this window is kind of see-through to the inside of the card. It's a fun way to use this set. Now for this card project, I used the Let It Snow sentiment from the stamp set, and I white heat embossed it onto a white card front. I used that little car and adhered it together, all of the die cut pieces, but I trimmed off the tree for the front of the card. When you open the card, there's a snow globe, and that car now has the tree on top of it with a few of those tiny snowflakes that I die cut from the Concord 9th silver glitter cardstock. I also used the silver metallic cardstock on the car as well. I white heat embossed that Let It Snow snow globe base onto some white cardstock and then just did a little ink blending over the top. And you can see this card looks really simple from the front, but when you open it up, you have that snow globe surprise, and I think that is absolutely adorable. There are so many ways to use the Winter Wonderland stamps and coordinating die set. I think you're going to have a great time creating with these this holiday season, and I just absolutely love a good interactive card, and this makes that super easy. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to the brand new Be Merry pattern paper pack from Concord 9th. I absolutely love this pattern paper pack, and I think you will too. This pattern paper pack includes 18 sheets of single-sided 8.5 by 11 pattern paper, and there are 2 of each design, so you don't have to worry about using your only sheet of your favorite pattern. So I want to flip you through all of the patterns included in this pattern paper pack so that you can get an idea for the variety of different types of patterns that are included. These patterns work so well together and they are so much fun to mix and match. There's a nice greenery, a big bold stripe, a smaller colorful stripe, as well as some polka dots, plaids, and a text pattern, which I am absolutely in love with. And this sheet here includes 5 different patterns that can be cut down into strips to use on your card fronts, or you can use the detail pieces from the Quilt Top line from Concord 9th to die cut for your different quilting patterns. And I think this is a great way to bring in a little bit of pattern and color to your card projects for this holiday season. So let's have a look at a couple of cards I created featuring these brand new Be Merry pattern papers from Concord 9th. I've started out with a larger piece of that scripty background there, and I've cut it into a banner shape. And I've accented it with that colorful stripe and layered it onto some of the snowflake pattern as well. So I've got 3 different patterns on this particular card. Now for this card, I have used a large piece of that greenery background, and I've heat embossed the new Plaid Turnabout stamp in white embossing powder onto a piece of white cardstock and layered that into the center and added a simple greeting. This has a lot of pattern and a lot of texture, but I love the way it looks. Now on this card, I have mixed and matched some patterns along with some solid colored cardstocks to create this gorgeous new Poinsettia quilt top card. And finally, I have used the Boughs and Holly stencil set to create this card, and I've added just a small bit of that colorful stripe along the side. So there you have it, a look at the brand new Be Merry pattern paper pack. I think you're going to love mixing and matching these pattern papers on all of your card projects this holiday season. So there you have it, a complete look at the brand new September 2022 release from Concord 9th. I know you're going to love creating with these products as much as I have, and I hope you've been inspired by the projects I've shared in this video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.